These are stories where love meets betrayal. Stories that make you see life a little differently.
I never believed silence could be so loud. But that night, as the rain tapped against the windows like nervous fingers, I suddenly heard everything. The exhaustion, the distance, the slow unraveling of a love I thought would last forever. My name doesn't matter. At least, it doesn't matter as much as the story I'm about to tell. Because this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about how a single moment can split your world in two, before and after. I used to think I understood pain. Life teaches you enough lessons to make you believe you're prepared. But betrayal, real betrayal, breaks you in ways you don't even realize at first. It's soft, quiet, like rain sliding down a window, until suddenly it becomes a storm you can't escape. His name was Daniel, and for a long time, he was everything. We met on a morning much like this one. Gray sky, distant thunder, a kind of gentle heaviness in the air. I remember standing at the bus stop, clutching a folder against my chest, trying to protect it from the drizzle. He approached with an umbrella, smiling in that warm, slightly crooked way of his. And he said, "You shouldn't fight the rain, it always wins." Then he tilted the umbrella toward me. That was Daniel. Soft kindness. Beautiful simplicity. The kind of presence that made you feel like you weren't alone in the world. For years, our love felt like a home. Comfortable, safe, predictable in the best way. We cooked together, we planned weekend trips we rarely took, we left notes for each other on sticky pads. His always in blue ink, mine always in black. Little rituals that felt permanent, like tiny promises scattered across the days. But promises break easily when someone stops meaning them. Looking back, I can see the exact moment everything began to change. It was last November, a week of endless rain, the kind that makes the whole world feel slow and heavy. Daniel had been coming home late for months, but that week, he didn't even pretend to have a reason anymore. No stories about traffic, no excuses about deadlines. Just the faint smell of someone else's perfume clinging to his clothes, and the guilt he tried to hide behind tired eyes. I didn't confront him, not at first, because sometimes the truth is too heavy to carry, and pretending feels easier than breaking your own heart. I told myself he was stressed. I told myself the perfume must have come from the office. I told myself we were just in a rough patch, and it would pass, just like every storm eventually does. But storms don't pass if you pretend they aren't there. They grow. One night I heard him whispering in the hallway. His voice was low, softer than usual. The way he used to speak to me years ago, when love was still young. He said someone's name, and it wasn't mine. "I miss you too. I'll see you tomorrow. I can't talk now." My heart didn't break loudly, it cracked quietly, like thin ice under careful steps. I remember standing in the kitchen after he hung up, my hands trembling around a mug of tea I no longer wanted. The clock above the stove blinked, 2:14 a.m. Its slow ticking echoed through the room, like a countdown I couldn't hear before. The next day, I tried to act normal. People say you can sense when something in your life is about to shatter, but I didn't sense it. I lived inside it, pretending everything was unchanged. We sat across from each other at breakfast, him scrolling through his phone, me stirring sugar into tea I never drank. "Are you okay?" I asked quietly. He didn't even look up. Yeah, just tired. Tired. That was the word he used for months to explain everything. Tired of work, tired of stress, tired of questions, tired of us. That evening, he left again, saying he was meeting a colleague to go over a presentation. He didn't even bother to make it sound convincing. I watched him walk out the door, the rain catching on his jacket, and I suddenly felt an ache so deep it hollowed me out from the inside. I knew where he was going. I knew who he was going to see. But I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that he was lying or the fact that he no longer cared enough to lie well. Hours passed. The house felt empty in a way I'd never felt before. Not quiet, just hollow, as if something had been removed from it. I sat by the window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. Outside, the streetlights blurred into soft halos. People moved like shadows, umbrellas merging with the darkness. And I kept thinking, when did I become a stranger in my own life? Around midnight, Daniel returned. He tried to slip into the house quietly, but the moment he stepped inside, I could feel it. That shift, that coldness, the very presence of someone who no longer belongs to you. His hair was damp, his shirt slightly wrinkled, and again, that faint scent of someone else wrapped around him like a whisper. Did the meeting go well? I asked, my voice steady in a way my heart wasn't. He hesitated, just for a second, but enough for the truth to bleed through. Yeah, productive. I nodded, but inside, something finally broke. Because love can survive distance, arguments, even silence. But it cannot survive when one heart stops choosing the other. That night, I didn't sleep, not even for a moment. I lay awake, listening to the rain, imagining him with her, with the woman whose perfume I had learned better than my own. In the morning, he left early, and for the first time, I didn't ask where he was going. I already knew, and that was the beginning of the end. A slow, cold unraveling of a life I thought was safe. But I didn't know then that the truth would be so much worse than I imagined. I didn't know how deep the betrayal really went, or how much it would change me. I didn't know that I was about to lose everything. The morning after Daniel left early, something inside me felt different. Not stronger, not braver, just painfully awake. For months, I had been drifting through my own life like a ghost, pretending not to notice the distance growing between us. But that morning, the pretending finally felt impossible. The rain hadn't stopped all night. It was softer now, but steady, like a reminder that some storms don't end. They simply change shape. I stood by the window, holding my cup of tea, watching the droplets slide down the glass, and I felt the quiet weight of a decision I didn't fully understand yet. I needed to know the truth, not because it would fix anything, not because I believed there was something left to save, but because lies had turned my life into something unrecognizable, and I couldn't breathe in that fog anymore. Around noon, I picked up Daniel's jacket, the one he always threw over the back of the chair without thinking. The faint perfume was still there, sweet, floral, sharp enough to cut through every excuse I'd ever made for him. I pressed my face into the fabric, inhaling slowly, trying to understand how long it had been there, how long she had been there.
My chest tightened. Not with anger, not yet, but with a deep, piercing grief. The kind that wraps around your ribs and squeezes until you can barely stand. I sat on the floor for a long time, holding that jacket in my hands, feeling like the woman I used to be was slipping further and further away. Eventually, I forced myself up and walked into his office, the room he rarely let me enter anymore. He always said he needed privacy for work, but now I knew better. The desk was clean, too clean. No scattered papers, no open notebooks, no coffee mug skeins on the wood, just emptiness. But then I noticed something. A small drawer, slightly open, barely a centimeter, like someone had closed it in a hurry. My hands trembled as I pulled it out. Inside were simple things. A few pens, a charger, an old notebook, and a second phone. Black. Unremarkable. Hidden. My breath caught in my throat. I picked it up slowly as if it were something dangerous, and maybe it was. Maybe it always had been. The phone was off, but when I pressed the power button, it lit up immediately. No password, no luck. He must have trusted that I would never look. When the screen opened, the first thing I noticed was her name, Clara. The last name didn't matter. It was the way her name appeared again and again, message after message, each one a tiny blade. I miss you. Last night was perfect. I hate that you have to leave. When will you tell her? I'm tired of hiding. The words blurred together as tears filled my eyes. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the phone. I scrolled, and each message felt like a blow to the chest. She doesn't understand you like I do. You deserve better. I love you. I felt sick, physically sick. The kind of nausea that rises from your stomach to your throat when the world suddenly stops making sense. There were photos too. Not explicit, but intimate. Her smile pressed against his shoulder, her head on his chest, the two of them in a place I didn't recognize. A cafe, maybe a hotel room. A place where he looked happier than he had looked with me in a long time. I don't remember dropping onto the chair. I don't remember wiping my tears. I don't remember breathing.
I just remember staring at those messages, those images, and realizing that my life, the life I thought I had, was built on a lie. For a long moment, I couldn't think, couldn't move, couldn't feel anything except the crushing weight of betrayal. But then, slowly, the numbness began to fade, and something else crept in. Not rage, not sorrow. Something colder, calmer. A kind of clarity I hadn't felt in months. I stood up. I placed the phone back in the drawer. I closed it gently, and then I started cleaning the house. I don't know why. Maybe because everything inside me felt chaotic, and cleaning felt like the only thing I could control. Maybe because some part of me needed to prepare for the moment I knew was coming. The moment when he would walk through that door as if nothing had happened. Hours passed. The sky darkened. The rain softened into a delicate whisper against the roof. I was wiping down the kitchen counter when I heard the sound of his key in the lock. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I felt empty. But in that emptiness, there was strength.
He stepped inside, closing the door behind him, shaking off the rain from his hair. "Hey," he said, barely glancing at me. "Long day? I'm exhausted." Exhausted. Always exhausted. I turned to face him. "Daniel," I said softly. Something in my voice made him look up. Really look. And for the first time in months, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. "What's wrong?" he asked. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't accuse him. I simply said, "Who is Clara?" His entire body froze. The silence that followed was sharp, cutting through the space between us like broken glass. He swallowed hard. I don't know what you're talking about." I nodded slowly. Then I walked past him into his office and opened the drawer. I didn't touch the phone. I just let him see it. The color drained from his face. He stepped forward, reaching for the drawer, but I placed my hand gently on it, stopping him. "You don't need to explain," I whispered. "I already know." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I can explain," he said finally, his voice trembling. "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. Almost. "Daniel, I read everything." This time, he didn't try to speak. He didn't try to lie. He just stood there, silent, small, fragile in a way I had never seen him before. "How long?" I asked. He hesitated, then said the words that shattered what little was left of me. "Almost a year." A year! A year of secrets, a year of pretending, a year of choosing someone else while I was lying awake next to him, wondering why he felt so far away. I felt the room tilt slightly, as if the air had shifted. "A year," I repeated quietly. He nodded. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Sorry. Such a small word, so useless. I stepped back, suddenly too tired to stand near him. "Why?" I asked. The word felt heavy, too heavy to hold. He rubbed his hands over his face. "I don't know, it just happened." "It just happened," I murmured. Rain pressed softly against the windows, filling the silence between us. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see the man I fell in love with. I saw a stranger wearing his face, and in that moment, I realized something painful and simple. The love I had been fighting for was already gone. When you hear the truth, the real truth, there's a moment when everything inside you goes silent. Not peaceful, not calm, just painfully, unbearably still. That was what I felt as Daniel stood in front of me, eyes down, shoulders slumped, waiting for me to shatter. But I didn't. I couldn't. Somewhere deep inside, I had already broken long before this moment, and now there was nothing left to break. He kept staring at the floor, as if avoiding my eyes could soften what he'd done. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he whispered. The words floated in the air like smoke, thin, weak, impossible to hold. I turned away from him, not out of anger, but because looking at him felt like pressing on a bruise that would never heal. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the rain, soft, steady, indifferent to our collapsing world. Finally, I said, "Sit down, Daniel." He hesitated, then moved to the living room and sat on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped tightly together. I stayed standing. I needed the distance, a barrier, something to keep me upright. "Tell me everything," I said. My voice was steady, almost too steady, but inside my chest was a knot of trembling threads. He took a deep breath, exhaled shakily. We met at work. She was new, and we started talking during a project. It felt harmless at first, just conversations. I nodded, saying nothing. But then things changed. I don't know when, I don't know how. We were spending more time together. It felt easy. Too easy. His voice cracked slightly on that last phrase, but I couldn't find it in myself to feel sympathy. She listened to me. He continued. She made me feel understood, seen. My stomach twisted. "So I didn't?" I asked quietly. He looked up at me for the first time. "It's not that," he said quickly. "You did. You always did. I lost myself somewhere, and she showed up at the wrong time. The wrong time. The wrong person. The wrong choice. Everything so conveniently wrong, except the decision he made again and again to keep choosing her." "How long after it started," I asked, "did you decide to stay with her?" He winced. "I never decided that." But he did. Every night he lied. Every message he sent. Every moment he let me sit alone, waiting for a love that had already left the room. I studied him for a moment, this man I had loved for so many years. And suddenly, he looked so small, so ordinary, so human. And maybe that was the cruelest part. Realizing that the person who destroys you isn't a monster. It's someone painfully, disappointingly human. "Daniel," I said softly, "why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you leave if you wanted something else?" His shoulders slumped even more. "Because I didn't want to lose you." My breath caught. "You didn't want to lose me, but you didn't want to stop seeing her either?" He closed his eyes. "I was stupid. You were selfish," I corrected. He didn't disagree. For a moment, I just watched him. This man spiraling in guilt, fear, regret. But I couldn't feel anything anymore. Not anger, not heartbreak. Just a slow, widening numbness, like frost spreading across a window pane. "And what about her?" I asked. "Does she know you're here, lying to her too?" He flinched. "She knows I'm married. She knew from the start. But she hoped." He sighed. "She asked me to tell you months ago. She wanted us to be together." I swallowed hard. "So she wanted you to leave me." He nodded. "And you wanted her enough to betray me, but not enough to choose her." He didn't answer. Maybe because there was no answer that wouldn't make everything worse. I walked to the window, watching the rain blur the streetlights into trembling halos. "Daniel," I said quietly, not turning around, "do you love her?" Silence. Long, heavy, suffocating silence. "Daniel," I repeated, "do you love her?" His voice broke when he finally spoke. "I don't know." That was the moment something inside me, Something small but essential faded out completely. Not because he loved her, and not because he didn't, but because the man I thought I knew would have at least known his own heart.
I turned back toward him. "Do you love me?" He looked desperate then. Truly desperate. "Yes," he said quickly. "Of course I do." I never stopped. But the words sounded wrong, like an actor stumbling over lines he doesn't believe in anymore. I shook my head slowly. "You stopped choosing me," I said. "And that's the only kind of love that matters." He opened his mouth to speak, but I raised a hand, stopping him. "I'm not asking because I want you to stay," I said softly. "I'm asking because I need to understand what I've been holding on to all this time." He stared at me with wet eyes.
"I'm sorry," he whispered again. The rain tapped harder against the windows. Somewhere outside, a car passed through a puddle, sending up a soft splash. I took a breath, steadying myself, because I knew what I was about to say would change everything. "Daniel," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "you need to leave tonight." He jerked his head up. "What, now? You're kicking me out?" "I'm asking you to leave," I corrected. "We can talk about the rest later, but tonight, I can't breathe with you here." He shook his head in disbelief. "It's late. It's raining. I don't have anywhere." "You have her," I said quietly. The words hit harder than I expected them to. They tasted bitter on my tongue. He stood, panic flickering in his expression. "I don't want to go to her," he said. "I want to fix this. I want to fix us." A sad, fragile ache unfurled inside my chest. "Daniel, you can't fix something you never stopped breaking." He stepped toward me. "Please," he said, voice shaking. "Let's talk. Let's work through this. I made a mistake, a terrible, unforgivable mistake. But please don't end us tonight." I looked into his eyes, and for a brief moment, I saw the man I once loved, the man who held an umbrella over me at a bus stop, the man whose laughter filled our home, the man I built dreams with. But that man wasn't here anymore. I stepped back. "Go," I said softly. "Just go." He leaned against the table, fingers gripping the edge as if holding on to the last solid thing in his world. "Can I come back tomorrow?" he asked quietly. That question broke something gentle inside me. "I don't know," I whispered. "I honestly don't know." He nodded slowly, defeated, and walked toward the door. Before he opened it, he looked at me one last time. "I love you," he said. I didn't answer. The door closed. Rain rushed in to fill the silence he left behind. And just like that, the life I had known was gone. When the door closed behind Daniel, the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was dense, heavy, almost physical. The kind of silence that sits across from you like a living thing, watching, waiting, pressing its weight into your chest until you feel like you can't breathe. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door he had just walked through. Part of me expected him to come back, to knock, to apologize again, to fall apart completely. He had always hated leaving during arguments. He always wanted the last word. But tonight, he didn't come back. Maybe because even he knew there were no words left that could save us. Eventually, my legs gave out, and I sank onto the floor near the doorway. The cool hardwood pressed against my skin as I curled my knees toward my chest. I wasn't crying. Not really. Just letting tears slip quietly down my cheeks, merging with the rhythm of the rain outside. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with betrayal. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It moves through you slowly, freezing everything in its path. I sat there until my body ached, until the rain softened, until the house felt like a museum filled with memories that didn't belong to me anymore. At some point, I forced myself to stand. I didn't know what I was supposed to do next. Everything inside me felt like shattered glass. I walked into the bedroom and paused at the doorway. The bed looked wrong. Too big, too empty, too honest. The truth of what had been happening lived in that emptiness. The truth of all the nights he came home late, all the mornings he left early, all the excuses, all the distance. I climbed into bed anyway, not to sleep. I knew sleep wouldn't come, but because lying down felt like the only thing my body understood. I stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to the rain fade, return, fade again. The night felt endless. And then, sometime around dawn, my phone buzzed. It startled me. In that quiet, in that broken stillness, the sound cut through the darkness like a blade. I reached for it with trembling hands. A message from Daniel. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. I'm outside. Can I please come in? My heart twisted painfully. I sat up slowly, wiping my face with my sleeve. I walked to the window, and there he was, standing in the rain, soaked, small, lost. For a moment, my body moved on instinct, the instinct of years spent loving him, caring for him, choosing him every day. But then another instinct rose up, quieter but stronger, the instinct to protect myself. I stepped back from the window. I didn't go downstairs. I didn't open the door. Instead, I typed, "Go home, Daniel. We'll talk tomorrow." I watched him read it. His shoulders sank, his head lowered. He didn't text again, he didn't knock. He just turned and walked away. And I let him go. The next morning, the world looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The rain had stopped, replaced by a dull, washed-out sky, the kind that makes everything look tired. I made myself tea, though I didn't drink it. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the steam rising from the mug. And then I realized I wasn't staring at the steam. I was staring at the empty chair across from me. His chair. The one he always pulled too close to the table. The one with the scratch on the left leg from when we moved in. The one he sat in every morning while telling me about work, about his day, about his life. I reached out and gently touched the back of it, as if it were something fragile. Then I forced myself to stand. I couldn't stay in that kitchen, not with all the ghosts there. I needed air. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. The world smelled like wet earth and cold pavement. Trees dripped with last night's rain. Cars passed slowly, their tires hissing against the slick road. I walked without thinking, just letting my feet carry me wherever they wanted. Eventually, I found myself at a small park near our house, a place Daniel and I used to visit early in our relationship. a place where we had sat on a bench, drinking cheap coffee, talking about our future.
Our future, a word that now felt foreign. I sat on that same bench, wrapping my coat tighter around myself. My mind drifted back to the messages I had read the night before, the photos, the months of lies. But what hurt the most wasn't the cheating itself. It was how long it went on, how easily he moved between two lives, how he let me plan dinners, birthdays, vacations, while he planned moments with her, how he kissed me goodnight and then messaged her after I fell asleep. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to push away the image of them together. But it kept coming back. Her smile, his hands, their closeness. A cold wind swept through the park, making me shiver. After a while, my phone buzzed again. This time, a long message. From him. I didn't sleep. I can't stop thinking about what I've done. I know you don't owe me anything, but please, can we meet later today? I want to explain everything. You deserve the truth, all of it. The truth. As if last night hadn't already been more truth than I ever wanted. I stared at the message for several minutes. My hands felt numb. Eventually, I replied, "We can talk at 6, here in the park." I don't know why I chose that place. Maybe because it was neutral. Maybe because I needed space between us. Open air, open sky, something larger than the weight of his betrayal. The rest of the day passed slowly. I walked home, showered, sat on the couch staring at nothing. Time moved strangely, fast and slow at the same time. I didn't cry again. Not because I wasn't hurting, but because I felt hollow, like all my tears had been wrung out of me. At 5:30, I put on my coat and went back to the park. The sky was turning darker, heavy clouds gathering again, more rain coming. I sat on the bench and waited. Minutes stretched. Cars passed. The wind picked up. At exactly 6, Daniel appeared on the path, walking toward me with hesitant, uneven steps. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. His hair was messy, his eyes red, his clothes wrinkled. He sat down at the opposite end of the bench, leaving space between us. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, he exhaled shakily. "Thank you for meeting me." I didn't answer. He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know where to start," he said quietly. "Start with the truth," I replied. "The real truth this time." He swallowed hard. Then he looked at me and said something I didn't expect. Something that made the air around me freeze. "There's more," he whispered. "More than what you saw." I felt my heartbeat slow. More. More lies. More betrayal. More pieces of a life I thought was mine. I stared at him, my breath caught in my chest. "What do you mean, more?" He closed his eyes, and when he opened them, I knew whatever he was about to say would break me in a way even the cheating hadn't. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, listening to the rain tapping against the window, steady, rhythmic, almost calming, if not for the storm inside my chest. I kept replaying the moment I saw her name reflected in his eyes, the exact way his voice cracked, the way guilt washed over him like a shadow. Her name, Lena. The woman I had suspected for months. The woman who always smiled a little too warmly, laughed a little too brightly, leaned a little too close to him whenever she had the chance,
And now I knew. I wasn't just imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't insecure. I wasn't jealous. I was betrayed. Morning came slowly, gray and cold. The kind of morning when even the sun seems too exhausted to rise. I stayed under the blanket longer than usual, listening to the rain, letting it numb me, letting it hold me together. When I finally forced myself to get up, I felt strange, like I was moving through water, heavy, slow, detached. My body existed, but I wasn't inside it. I went to the kitchen, made coffee, sat by the window, and stared at nothing. It took me 10 minutes to realize the cup in my hands had gone cold. I didn't even feel it. I checked my phone. 2 messages, both from him. The first one was short. "We need to talk." The second one, "Please don't ignore me. I can explain." Explain? Explain what? Explain how long it lasted? Explain why he lied straight into my eyes? Explain why he held me at night with the same hands he touched her with? Explain why I wasn't enough. I dropped the phone on the table and pressed my palms to my face. I wasn't crying, not yet, but the tears were waiting, sitting behind my eyes like a rising flood. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want explanations. I didn't want more lies. But I knew we had to talk eventually, not for closure, not for answers, but because I needed to look him in the eyes one more time and see who he truly was. Around noon, there was a knock on the door. Soft, hesitant, familiar. I didn't move at first. I just sat there, breathing slowly, counting the seconds between each knock. Then I stood up and opened the door. He was standing there in the rain, no umbrella, hair wet, jacket soaked, eyes red. He looked broken. A part of me felt something twist inside. Not sympathy, something else. Something like the ghost of love. Love that once lived in us. Love that was now dying. He whispered my name, quietly, like a prayer he didn't deserve to say. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside silently. He entered the apartment slowly, like he was afraid it would shatter under his weight. He took off his wet jacket, placed it on a chair, and then turned to me. His lips trembled. "I'm sorry." Just that. 2 words. After everything. After all the lies. After all the nights he came home late. After all the moments he made me feel crazy. After the way he made me doubt myself. All he had were 2 words. I felt something sharp inside me. Something icy. Something clean. I sat down at the kitchen table and motioned for him to do the same. He sat across from me, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. "Tell me the truth," I said. "All of it." He swallowed hard, and he began. "It started months ago. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't planned." I stared at him. I didn't blink. I didn't move. Lies always start like that. He kept talking. "She was going through a hard time. We were spending a lot of hours together at work. One evening, we stayed late. We talked. It just happened. It just happened. People don't just happen. Choices happen. Decisions happen. Crossing boundaries happens. Cheating is not an accident." But I let him speak. I wanted to hear the ugliness. I wanted the truth to cut through the last threads connecting us. He kept going. "It was only once at first, then it happened again. And then I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't want to hurt you. He didn't want to hurt me, but he did.
He hurt me with every lie he fed me every day. He hurt me with every kiss that wasn't truly mine. He hurt me with every night he came home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. He hurt me silently. I looked at him, my voice steady. Do you love her? His breath hitched. No, he said quickly. No, I don't. He didn't hesitate, but I didn't believe him. I could see the truth flicker in his eyes. Not love, maybe, but something. Something that still pulled him toward her. Something that didn't belong to me anymore. Do you love me? I asked. This time, he hesitated. Just for a second.
But a second was enough. My heart felt like glass cracking quietly. He looked down, his voice barely audible. I made a mistake. Mistake. Another word people love to hide behind. A mistake is when you drop a glass. A mistake is when you forget your keys. Betrayal is not a mistake. It's a decision, a choice. A choice he made again and again and again. I leaned back in my chair and looked at him for a long moment. Why did you come today? I asked. He lifted his eyes, desperate. Because I don't want to lose you. Because I want to fix this. Because I need you. Need. Not love. Need.
Sometimes people don't want you. They just don't want to be without you. That's not the same. I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt everything at once, and my body simply shut down to survive. I whispered, I'm done. He froze. His mouth opened slightly, like he couldn't process the words. What do you mean? I mean, I said slowly, that this, whatever we were, whatever we had, it's over. His chair scraped loudly against the floor as he jumped to his feet. No, please, don't say that. We can fix it. We can go to therapy. We can't, I interrupted. He looked like someone had punched the air out of him. I don't have anything left to give you, I said. You took everything. He knelt in front of me, literally knelt, his hands shaking, tears spilling, voice broken. Please, don't leave me. Please. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I remembered the man I once loved. The man who held me under blankets on cold nights. The man who kissed me on my forehead every morning. The man who promised me forever. But that man no longer existed. He had killed himself the moment he chose her. I opened my eyes, stood up, and stepped away from him. I already left you, I whispered, and I walked to the door. I didn't slam it, I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just opened it and let the rain-filled air wash over me. He called my name behind me, but I didn't look back. I closed the door quietly, and for the first time in months, I felt something like peace.
Sometimes pain doesn't come from enemies, but from the ones we trusted the most. Maybe that's how life teaches us to see the truth. Could you forgive such a betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. More stories are coming, stories that will touch your heart.